Hello, this is Muho. Today I would talk about a series of questions that a very young 20-year-old person from Egypt sent to me. Probably I won't finish all of them this week, so next week I want to continue. I get very few emails from, well, so-called Arabic countries, and I think Egyptians would say we are not Arabs, we are Egyptians. So I don't get many emails from the Middle East in the broader sense, and I'm not sure if Egypt belongs to the Middle East in the first place. It's straight south of Ukraine, and whatever. The person, I first would like to read some of what the person writes, and I think what he shares is something that a lot of my viewers will be able to relate to. I have been interested in spirituality since I was 13 years old, and to this day I still am. Since that time, I have looked into different spiritual traditions and tried as much as I can do to study their available texts, and also incorporate any practices that I am able to understand and practice. I have watched nearly all of your English videos on your YouTube channel, and also got 2 of your German books and translated them to English using an online translator to be able to read. Wow, so that's possible. So anyone here who doesn't speak German and also not Japanese, but is interested in my books, obviously that's also possible to use an online translator. Thank you for doing so much to get to whatever I have to say. I have also read your writings on the Antaiji online archives. I will put a link, if I don't forget it, below. So that's something that you can get for free. I started to write quite a lot in English about 20 years ago, and that stuff is still online. It's a series of articles called Adult Practice. So if you don't know those articles, I can recommend them. I will continue to read a bit. You find the whole text below. I have not done any major official training in Buddhist meditation, but I have spent a lot of time with myself throughout the past years, where I would contemplate on different teachings, and I've tried to be self-aware and to understand myself as much as I can online with those teachings. Even though I can say I might have gained some wisdom from these years, I can't really say I have reached any major understanding that is life-changing. And even though I had many experiences that are interesting and sometimes quite mystical, I can't say that any of them lasted or somehow changed me in a way to which I can point to and say, here is my enlightenment. And as I said last month, maybe that's quite good, because you're in good company. You could say that you're in the company of the Buddhas, because the Buddhas are the ones that realize how deep they are stuck in their delusion, at least according to Dogen. Some other Buddhist teachers might contradict. Whatever, I continue to read a little bit. I can't only blame myself in this regard, since the country I live in, that would be Egypt, does not have any Buddhist temples of any kind. However, I can also be blamed in this regard for not realizing the futility of undertaking practices and study without proper guidance. But I think I knew this all along, and the dissatisfaction with life and existence drove me to continue to try to understand, even though it might be a dead-end road. I would have at least tried. But I think now the time has come to seek professional help and actually ask someone who has undertaken actual training about what I need to know to be able to practice. As I said the other day, finding a teacher, at least from my perspective, is important. If anybody thinks they don't need a teacher, no problem with that. But if you have the feeling that you need a teacher, then probably you need one. And this person here seems to have that feeling. I asked for your forgiveness for my long letter, and I can only be grateful for the work you have produced on the internet, which has helped me at times find some meaning in my existence. Therefore, now I will cut to the questions that I want to ask about. This email actually is... I forgot when I got it. I think it's already a year old. And the other day I got a second one. In this first email there are 5 questions which I want to answer. Probably not all of them today. And the other day I got 3 or 4 new ones, which I also will eventually answer. First question. It is discussed in the old Pali canon that in order to get rid of suffering, one must overcome any desire for an object of the senses, along with any desire for existence or non-existence. The way this is done is by undertaking to see the disgust in beautiful objects and vice versa, for ugly objects, along with, of course, giving up worldly life and becoming a celibate monk who eats only once per day. So the Pali canon, those are the oldest sutras in Buddhism, and especially in the Theravada tradition. That would be Buddhism as it was transmitted to Sri Lanka, Thailand and Myanmar. For them, the Pali canon, they are the whole of the Buddhist teaching. That's what the Buddha actually taught. While in Mahayana, we have a lot of other sutras that were authored by other monks, although they attributed, they said, well, this is the teaching of the Buddha, like the Lotus Sutra, in Japanese it's called the Kegan Sutra, the flower ornament scripture, all of the wisdom sutras, including the Heart Sutra, all of these were written hundreds of years after the Buddha passed away. But often in Mahayana Buddhism we value these even more. And in Zen also, although Zen, sometimes it's said that it's much closer to Theravada than the rest of Mahayana. There's a difference there, and the difference, put simply, is in Theravada Buddhism there's samsara, and samsara means you're living in the world of desire and suffering. You suffer because you desire. But the way out of suffering, by reducing your desire and eventually bringing it down to zero, you will attain nirvana. You will become an arhat, completely enlightened person. From the Mahayana perspective, that's still desire. You still want to attain nirvana. You still want to get rid of your suffering. You try to avoid suffering, but that's also aversion. You try to attain nirvana, but that's still greed. You want to become an arhat. Forget about it. Accept suffering. Accept the fact that you're deluded. If you don't start there and let go of this desire to attain nirvana, you will never realize that you're already in nirvana. So, as a small piece of information, to understand the background and why some things that you find in the Pali canon don't really fit together what people will tell you in Zen. I continue with the first question. This, however, does not seem to be practiced by the Zen tradition. That's right, and I just explained why. In that sense, how is Zen related to these practices? Does Zen practice include having to train oneself to subdue the mind from greed, hate, and delusion? I understand there are degrees of being hateful, greedy, or deluded. But does Zen aim to eradicate these so that the Zen student reaches a state where they are not affected by these things anymore? So is Zen basically an updated version of Theravada practice, or is it different? I will come back to that question because I only have 12 minutes on this camera next week, and I hope to answer some more by the same viewer from Egypt. Thank you for watching. See you again next week. And if you like, on Monday for the Zoom Zazen class. Bye.